The 9/11 conspiracy theory suggests that the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks were either deliberately orchestrated by the US government or they allowed it to happen in order to justify military interventions in domestic policies. While the official account attributes the attacks to the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, many conspiracy theorists argue that the true story is far more complex and nefarious. These theories propose several alternative explanations, with some claiming that the US government, specifically figures within the Bush administration, were involved in a false flag operation to provoke public support for wars in the Middle East, specifically in Afghanistan and Iraq, and others believe that intelligence agencies, like the CIA, had foreknowledge of the attacks and either failed to act or intentionally ignored the threats. A key aspect to the conspiracy focuses on the collapse of the Twin Towers in the nearby World Trade Center 7 building. Theories argue that controlled demolitions, and not the impact of the planes or the resulting fires, caused the buildings to fall. Architects, engineers, and demolition experts are often cited by believers of this conspiracy to back up their claims. Additionally, some theorists believe that the Pentagon was not hit by a commercial plane, but by a missile, and that evidence, such as surveillance footage, was withheld. The 9/11 conspiracy theories began gaining momentum shortly after the attacks, driven by skepticism of the official 9/11 Commission report and the rapid spread of alternative explanations that rose from the internet. Films like Loose Change and websites such as 9/11 Truth also helped make these ideas popular. Despite extensive investigations debunking these claims, the theories continue to resonate with a portion of the public, often fueled by broader distrust of the government, media, and official narratives. The moon landing conspiracy theory centers on the claim that NASA faked the Apollo moon landings in 1969. According to people who believe in this theory, the US government staged the landing in order to win the space race against the Soviet Union, boost national morale, and assert technological dominance during the Cold War. They argued that the landings, specifically the Apollo 11 mission, in which Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first humans to walk on the moon, were filmed on Earth, possibly in a studio. This conspiracy theory began circulating in the early 1970s, shortly after the Apollo 11 mission, and a 1974 book by Bill Kaysing called We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 billion Swindle, is credited with popularizing the idea. Kaysing, a former employee of a NASA contractor, claimed to have inside knowledge and cited supposed inconsistencies in the moon landing footage and photographs. He argued that the US lacked the technology to safely land on the moon and return. Key arguments of moon landing hoax believers include inconsistencies in the photos and videos, such as the lack of stars in the sky, the way shadows appear, and the way that the American flag seems to wave in the airless environment of the moon. They also question why no further manned missions have occurred since Apollo 17. The theory gained traction over the decades through documentaries, books, and later the internet, and this conspiracy taps into a broader distrust of government and authority figures, and despite extensive evidence debunking this theory, including rock samples, telemetry data, and testimonies from astronauts, it remains prominent for many who believe in conspiracy theories. The JFK assassination conspiracy theory revolves around the belief that President John F. Kennedy's assassination on November 22, 1963, was not the work of a lone gunman, but rather the result of a larger, more sinister plot. The official accounts, based on the Warren Commission's investigation, concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in shooting Kennedy from the Texas School Book Depository in Dallas, Texas. However, many believe this explanation is incomplete or a cover-up. Conspiracy theories began almost immediately after the assassination, fueled by conflicting reports and the sudden murder of Oswald by a nightclub owner, Jack Ruby, 2 days later. Skeptics question how Oswald, a relatively unknown figure, could have orchestrated the killing of such a high-profile target alone. Some theorists argue that multiple gunmen were involved, pointing to the grassy knoll as a second possible shooting location. Numerous conspiracy theories emerged, bringing in various different people and organizations into the assassination, including the CIA, the FBI, the Soviet Union, and even Kennedy's own vice president, Lyndon B. Johnson. Many believe the government covered up crucial evidence, such as medical records and surveillance footage, to conceal the true perpetrators and their motives, which range from stopping Kennedy's foreign policies to preventing his re-election. The release of the Zapruder film in 1975, showing Kennedy's head snapping backward after the fatal shot, intensified public skepticism of the official narrative. The U.S. House Select Committee on Assassinations later reinvestigated the case in the late 1970s and concluded that there was a probable conspiracy, although it upheld much of the Warren Commission's findings. The JFK assassination conspiracy theory remains one of the most debated events in modern history, with new theories continuing to emerge and attract public interest. The Flat Earth conspiracy theory is the belief that the Earth is not a globe, as commonly accepted by science, but instead is flat. Believers of this conspiracy argue that governments, space agencies, and scientists have been lying about the true shape of the Earth in a massive conspiracy, possibly for financial gain or to maintain control over the populace. According to this theory, the Earth is a flat disk with the North Pole at its center, and Antarctica as an ice wall that surrounds the edges, preventing people from falling off. Although the idea of a flat Earth dates back to ancient civilizations, it was debunked by scientific discoveries, including those of the Greek philosopher Pythagoras, and later astronomers like Copernicus and Galileo. The modern flat Earth theory, however, re-emerged in the mid-20th century, most notably with Samuel Robotham's book, Zetetic Astronomy, Earth Not a Globe, which laid the groundwork for flat Earth beliefs in the modern era. The theory gained renewed attention in the 2000s with the rise of the internet, with flat Earth conventions and groups such as the Flat Earth Society contributing to its spread. Supporters point to so-called inconsistencies in photos of Earth from space, unusual flight paths, and what they consider to be faulty scientific assumptions about gravity and the horizon. Despite overwhelming evidence proving the Earth is round, including satellite images, GPS technology, and centuries of scientific research, this theory still persists on. The Illuminati conspiracy theory claims that a secretive, powerful group known as the Illuminati controls world events and governments, aiming to establish a new world order. According to believers, this hidden elite manipulates political, financial, and social systems to consolidate power, create global instability, and exert total control over humanity. The theory often alleges that influential figures, such as politicians, celebrities, and business leaders, are members of the shadowy organization. The origins of the Illuminati lie in a real historical group founded in Bavaria in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt, a professor who sought to promote Enlightenment ideals of reason, secularism, and equality. However, this original Illuminati disbanded by the late 1780s due to government repression. Despite its dissolution, the myth of a secret Illuminati society persisted, particularly after being linked to other secretive organizations like the Freemasons. The modern Illuminati conspiracy began to gain traction in the 1960s and 70s, fueled by countercultural movements in books like the Illuminatis trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson and Robert Shea. In this satirical work, the Illuminati was portrayed as a global group, mixing fact and fiction in a way that captivated conspiracy theorists. Over time, the theory evolved, suggesting that the Illuminati orchestrates wars, controls the banking system, and even manipulates cultural trends, such as the entertainment industry and technology. The internet, specifically in the 1990s and 2000s, played a major role in spreading the Illuminati theory. Symbols like the all-seeing eye or the pyramid, which appear on the US dollar bill, are often cited as evidence of the Illuminati's influence. Pop culture icons have been falsely accused of being Illuminati members, reinforcing the theory's presence in modern discourse. The Freemason conspiracy theory revolves around the idea that the Freemasonry, a fraternal organization with roots in medieval guilds, is a secretive, powerful group that manipulates world events and governments from behind the scenes. The origins of Freemasonry as a conspiracy date back to the 18th century, when the organization became more public and influential in Europe and America. Initially, Freemasonry was a network of craftsmen and builders who emphasized moral teachings, personal development, and brotherhood. However, its secretive rituals, symbols, and exclusive membership sparked much suspicion. The anti-Masonic movements gained momentum in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, particularly after the disappearance of William Morgan, a man who threatened to expose the secrets of Freemasonry in 1826, which led to widespread paranoia in the US. Conspiracy theories about Freemasons gained further prominence in the 19th century as anti-Masonic political parties formed, and later, in the 20th century, when totalitarian regimes like Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, targeted Freemasons, accusing them of being part of a global plot for domination. Freemason conspiracies often involve claims that their members hold key positions of power in government, finance, and influential institutions. Symbols associated with Freemasonry, such as the square and compass, the all-seeing eye, and pyramids, are often cited as proof of their hidden influence. Despite being a charitable organization focused on personal growth, the secrecy surrounding their meetings and rituals has allowed Freemason conspiracy theories to thrive. The Area 51 conspiracy theory is centered around the belief that the US government is hiding evidence of extraterrestrial life and advanced alien technology at a highly classified military facility in Nevada. Area 51, officially known as Groom Lake, is a remote site used by the US Air Force for testing experimental aircraft and weapons systems. The conspiracy theory alleges that, in addition to military testing, Area 51 is the storage and research hub for crashed UFOs, alien bodies, and secret extraterrestrial technology. The theory gained momentum in 1974 after the infamous Roswell incident, when a mysterious object crashed near Roswell, New Mexico. While the US military claimed it was a weather balloon, conspiracy theorists have long suspected that it was actually a UFO, and that wreckage and alien remains were transported to Area 51 for study. facility. In the following decades, secrecy surrounding the facility fueled speculation about what was happening inside. In 1989, a man named Bob Lazar claimed he had worked on reverse engineering alien spacecraft at a facility near Area 51, further popularizing the theory. Lazar's accounts of advanced propulsion systems and extraterrestrial technology being studied by the government ignited public curiosity and cemented Area 51 as a focal point of UFO conspiracy culture. Area 51's secretive nature, restricted airspace, and heavily guarded perimeter have only added to the allure. Sightings of strange lights, unidentified flying objects, and unusual aircraft around the area are often cited as evidence of extraterrestrial technology. The theory grew in popularity in the 1990s with the rise of the internet and media coverage, including TV shows like The X-Files. Despite official explanations that Area 51 is used for advanced aviation testing, the mystery around it continues to fascinate conspiracy theorists who believe the government is hiding the truth about alien life. The chemtrails conspiracy theory claims that the trails of condensation left by airplanes, known as contrails, are actually chemical agents being deliberately sprayed into the atmosphere by governments or shady organizations for covert purposes. According to believers, these chemtrails are part of secretive programs involving weather modification, population control, or biological warfare. Believers of this theory think that the chemicals dispersed could include toxins, heavy metals, or other harmful substances designed to manipulate human behavior, health, or the environment. Contrails, which are the condensation trails formed when water vapor in airplane exhaust condenses into ice crystals at high altitudes, have been a common sight since the early days of aviation. However, the chemtrails conspiracy began gaining traction in the mid-1990s when people started observing contrails that lingered in the sky longer than usual, spreading out into a thin haze. Conspiracy theorists interpreted this as evidence of chemical spraying rather than a natural occurrence. The internet and social media played a significant role in popularizing this theory, and some also linked the theory to geoengineering efforts, suggesting that chemtrails are being used to combat climate change by reflecting sunlight away from the Earth, although in a harmful or unethical way. Despite numerous scientific studies and expert explanations debunking the theory, stating that contrails are a well-understood atmospheric phenomenon and that no evidence supports the presence of harmful chemicals, the chemtrail theory persists. It remains a focal point for those skeptical of government transparency, scientific consensus, and environmental policies, often overlapping with broader anti-government and anti-globalization beliefs. The reptilian elites conspiracy theory is the belief that a race of shape-shifting reptilian aliens, or reptoids, have infiltrated human society and secretly control world governments, corporations, and other influential institutions. According to the theory, these reptilian beings can assume human form and have been manipulating global events for centuries to maintain control over humanity and establish a totalitarian world government. The theory was popularized in the 1990s by David Icke, a British writer and former sports broadcaster who claimed that many world leaders, including prominent figures such as the British royal family, US presidents, and other elites, are either reptilian themselves or are controlled by reptilians. Icke's work ties this conspiracy to ancient myths and legends of serpent-like creatures, as well as ideas about secretive societies and the Illuminati, suggesting that the reptilian elites are behind many of the world's conflicts, financial crises, and social issues. Believers of this theory often claim that reptilians feed on human suffering and fear, which is why they engineer wars, political turmoil, and disasters. Some even believe that the reptilians are interdimensional beings that possess advanced technology and psychic abilities, allowing them to manipulate human consciousness. Signs of their presence are found in ancient texts, cultural symbolism, and even the physical characteristic of certain people, such as cold-bloodedness or unusual behavior. The reptilian conspiracy gained momentum through the internet, which included footage of public figures whose eyes seemed to momentarily change or glitch. Despite being widely dismissed by scientists and skeptics as pure fantasy, the theory remains popular for those who believe in conspiracy theories. The Big Pharma suppressing cures conspiracy theory alleges that large pharmaceutical companies, often referred to as Big Pharma, intentionally suppress or withhold cures for diseases such as cancer, AIDS, and diabetes to maintain profits from selling treatments and medications. According to this theory, instead of providing permanent cures, pharmaceutical companies prefer to offer expensive, long-term treatments that generate continuous revenue. The theory suggests that cures either already exist or could be developed, but are being kept secret by pharmaceutical companies, governments, and regulatory agencies. Believers argue that the financial incentives for Big Pharma to suppress cures are immense, given the billions of dollars made each year from chronic illness treatments. They believe that a one-time cure would not be as profitable as lifetime dependency on medications, which keeps patients reliant on drugs and treatments that manage symptoms rather than eliminate the disease. Some conspiracy theorists even claim that researchers who discover potential cures are silenced, discredited, or forced to stop their work. This theory gained popularity in the late 20th century, fueled by growing distrust of large corporations and government institutions. High-profile controversies, such as cases where pharmaceutical companies have been fined for unethical practices, have deepened public suspicion. Additionally, the rise of the internet and social media allowed theorists to spread their ideas more widely, often highlighting anecdotal stories of alternative medicine practitioners who claim to have been suppressed by the medical establishments. Critics of the theory argue that there is no credible evidence supporting the claim that cures are being deliberately hidden, and they emphasize that scientific research is peer-reviewed and subject to public scrutiny, with breakthroughs in medicine, such as vaccines and new treatments, being widely shared. However, the theory persists, often overlapping with broader skepticism of corporate power, government oversight, and the healthcare industry's motives. The Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy theory revolves around the belief that Epstein, a wealthy financier and convicted sex offender, was part of a vast, powerful network that included elite individuals involving in illegal activities such as child trafficking and sexual exploitation. Epstein was arrested in 2019 on federal charges of sex trafficking minors, and his death in a New York jail, ruled a suicide, fueled widespread speculation that he was murdered to prevent him from revealing damaging information about his influential associates. The conspiracy theory gained traction due to the high-profile nature of Epstein's connections, which included politicians, business leaders, and royalty. Some of the key figures linked to Epstein include Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, Donald Trump, and many more. Many theorists argue that Epstein possessed compromising information on these individuals and others, leading to his supposed silencing. The abrupt nature of his death, the failure of security cameras at his cell, and inconsistencies in the official investigation created much speculation. This theory really took off after his death on August 10, 2019, when the phrase "Epstein didn't kill himself" trended on social media. The theory rapidly spread across many social media platforms, driven by memes and viral posts that question the official narrative. Theories range from the involvement of powerful politicians to intelligence agencies covering up a blackmail operation. The Epstein case became symbolic of distrust in institutions, reinforcing beliefs that powerful people operate with impunity, shielded from legal consequences. The lack of accountability for Epstein's accomplices and the secrecy around his wealth and criminal activities helped sustain the conspiracy, which remains widely discussed even after official investigations closed. Theories persist about the extent of Epstein's criminal empire and the true cause of his death. The vaccines cause autism conspiracy theory claims that vaccines, particularly the MMR vaccine, are linked to the development of autism in children. This theory stems from a now discredited 1998 study led by British doctor Andrew Wakefield, who suggested that there may be a link between these two things. Despite numerous scientific studies refuting this claim, the conspiracy persists and has influenced public perceptions of vaccine safety. The theory gained traction when Wakefield's study was widely publicized, sparking fears among parents. The media coverage amplified the findings, despite the lack of evidence. In 2010, Wakefield was stripped of his medical license after it was revealed that his research was fraudulent, ethically compromised, and funded by groups pursuing lawsuits against vaccine manufacturers. His sample size was small, and no following research has validated his claims. Nonetheless, the damage was done, and anti-vaccine movements embraced the theory, with even high-profile celebrities promoting the idea, furthering its reach. Social media also played a significant role in the spread of the conspiracy, as online forums and groups created echo chambers where vaccine misinformation thrived. The theory resonated with some parents, seeking an explanation for the rising autism diagnosis rates, despite the fact that these increases are largely attributed to better diagnostic practices and awareness. The reluctance to vaccinate, spurred by this belief, has led to outbreaks of preventable diseases, such as measles, in communities with low vaccination rates. The theory remains a significant public health concern as it undermines confidence in vaccines, which are one of the most effective tools for preventing disease. Despite overwhelming scientific consensus debunking the link, the belief continues to influence vaccine hesitancy. The Pizzagate conspiracy theory emerged in 2016, falsely claiming that a child trafficking ring involving high-profile politicians, including members of the Democratic Party, was being operated out of a Washington, D.C. pizzeria called Comet Ping Pong. The theory originated from hacked emails of John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, which were released by WikiLeaks. Conspiracy theorists, particularly on platforms like 4chan and Reddit, misinterpreted and speculated about references to pizza and other foods in the emails, claiming they were coded language for pedophilia and human trafficking. This theory was fueled by social media, where it was spread by many who opposed Hillary Clinton during the 2016 election, including far-right figures like Alex Jones. It linked the Democratic Party, Clinton, and other elites to an underground pedophile ring, tapping into broader fears and existing conspiracy narratives about the corruption of powerful figures. The theory spread widely, despite a complete lack of evidence, and rapidly gained popularity through viral posts. The conspiracy reached its peak when a man named Edgar Madison Welch drove from North Carolina to the Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria and fired a rifle inside the establishment in December 2016, attempting to rescue children he believed were being held captive. No evidence of any criminal activity was found, and Welch was arrested. Although thoroughly debunked, the Pizzagate conspiracy theory laid the groundwork for later conspiracy movements like QAnon, which similarly allege widespread elite corruption involving pedophilia. Pizzagate remains significant as an example of how disinformation can spiral into real-world violence and public belief, demonstrating the dangers of viral conspiracy theories in the digital age. The QAnon conspiracy theory is the belief that global elites, including politicians, celebrities, and business leaders, are involved in child trafficking, satanic rituals, and other forms of corruption. Central to the theory is the idea that Donald Trump was working to dismantle the group and expose their crimes. QAnon emerged in 2017 when an anonymous figure, known as Q, began posting cryptic messages, which were known as Q drops, on the online forum 4chan, claiming to be a high-ranking government insider with knowledge of this hidden war between Trump and the deep state. The conspiracy theory gained rapid popularity online, initially appealing to far-right and anti-establishment communities. Q's vague and coded messages invited followers to decode them, creating a sense of participation in uncovering the supposed truth. Followers believe in the Storm, a prophesized event where Trump will arrest and expose the members of this secretive group, leading to their downfall. Despite Trump's exit from office, the theory has evolved, with believers adjusting their narratives. This theory's popularity surged during the COVID-19 pandemic, as lockdowns and uncertainty fueled online engagement with conspiracies. QAnon also tapped into pre-existing conspiracy theories, including Pizzagate, and amplified fears about elite corruption and child exploitation. The movement has had real-world consequences, with some followers engaging in violent acts, most notably the January 6, 2021 US Capitol insurrection. Although Q has stopped posting, the conspiracy theory continues to thrive among certain communities. It has been debunked repeatedly by fact-checkers, but its followers remain committed, often seeing New World events as evidence of the hidden war they believe in. The COVID-19 hoax conspiracy theory is the belief that the global pandemic, which began in late 2019, was either exaggerated or entirely fabricated by governments, media, and powerful elites to control populations, infringe on civil liberties, or advance hidden agendas. Some versions of the theory claim that the virus itself is fake, while others argue that it exists, but its severity was deliberately overstated. Central to the conspiracy are ideas that lockdowns, mask mandates, and vaccines were tools of mass manipulation designed to create fear and compliance. Skeptics of the virus pointed to inconsistencies in information, such as changing guidelines from health officials, as evidence of a cover-up. Theories varied widely, with some claiming the virus was a plot to implement authoritarian control, others suggesting it was a ruse to introduce mass vaccination programs or digital tracking through microchips. Influential figures, including some celebrities and political commentators, promoted these ideas, helping to amplify them on social media platforms. The conspiracy theory thrived due to the fear, confusion, and uncertainty surrounding the pandemic. Additionally, the pandemic intersected with existing anti-government and anti-vaccine movements, drawing in people already distrustful of institutions. The COVID-19 hoax narratives has had dangerous real-world consequences, leading to widespread resistance to public health measures, vaccine hesitancy, and even violence against health officials. Though thoroughly debunked by experts and backed by overwhelming evidence of the virus's impact, the conspiracy persists among certain groups who view the pandemic as part of a broader scheme to strip away freedoms and impose control on society. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you learned something, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on any of the conspiracies I discussed, and subscribe if you would like to see a part 2 or more videos like this one. Thank you again, and goodbye.